So I've gotten a few emails from people asking me to basically kick off this year discussing the scope of 2019 hip hop. And before I get to discussing 2019 hip hop, I wouldn't be myself if I didn't ask you this sort of vague question, but what does hip hop mean to you when I say it and you hear it? If you ask somebody what hip hop is, they may give you a variation of 3 to 4 answers. Some may say it's a musical genre. Others may say that it's a lifestyle. And most old people would say that it's a pastime. But far and wide, even though it could be a variation of those 3, there could be a distribution of some of you who think, well, it's a music genre, obviously, because of streaming. You know, I listen to music all day, every day. And for me, you know, where I grew up, it's more of a lifestyle. And this, you know, it's all connected to your background, your socio-political affiliations, and, you know, all that stuff. And that's all very real. But far and wide, because of the country that we live in, hip hop is a industry. The people that we discuss, the people that we love, the people that we hate are all in a career path. So most people view it as an industry. And as an industry, hip hop is thriving. And that's great. It's proven itself to be a commodity. But with that, of course, is the danger that we have to ask ourselves where we are headed to. Because if it's an industry, then that means several things. It means that there are people in power that have recognized that hip hop is something that can be commodified on different levels. It's already proven itself to be a successful product, but it can be commodified on different levels. So that forces you to ask the question, that these people who are in these career paths, what are they willing to do to fight for your attention? What are they willing to do? These are quiet times right now. This is the calm before the storm. The year sort of beginning, and since it's an industry, there is a holiday time. There's sort of a quiet time, but there are people right now who, in the very near future, are going to lobby for your attention. And some of you are very intelligent. There's a couple of you who are just dumb as shit and will be susceptible to any old bullshit that comes your way, and you're going to feed into it. But far and wide, you guys are intelligent people. And if you're intelligent, you have to recognize that people are growing within this space, and they're going to behave more disingenuously than ever before. You know, with social media culture, just the fact that you live in the United States of America just tells you that what's about to come your way is serious, and you should really be paying close attention. Because it all feels like, ever since, for example, the arrest of 6ix9ine, which was late last year, it all seems like hip-hop has turned into a attention space, and it's either vacant or it's not. And 6ix9ine was occupying that space. And I think shortly after that, for the past few weeks, I've been hearing rumblings about Blueface. And that sort of died down for one particular reason. And that's because the only thing to discuss about Blueface is his music. You can talk about his gang affiliations, obviously with his name, and you see videos of him crip walking. You can discuss that, and you can make that into something that's not really there. But hip hop needs bullshit. The industry needs bullshit to feed off of, to eat. And that's what 6ix9ine provided for everyone. Because although it has turned into an industry, that still doesn't have to be a corrupt system. It still doesn't have to be full of bullshit. But it's an industry that's been made up of BS. So since it hasn't been occupied, you have to only assume that what's about to come is a combination of the bullshit and the music, which can be very dangerous, by the way. You haven't gotten a hybrid. You haven't gotten somebody who is both interesting in the music aspect of things and outside of the music. Whatever connections or whatever fascinations that the public has to their personal life. You haven't gotten a hybrid. You haven't gotten somebody who is both 6ix9ine and J. Cole. You haven't gotten that, but you might get that in the future. So you have to pay very close attention to what's ahead. So for the most part, that's what hip hop is. Hip hop is an industry, but to some of us, it is a lifestyle. It's something that doesn't have to be bought into. You don't have to, there's not a state of convergence to feel like you are hip hop for some of the older generation and for some level-headed people. But for most people who believe it's an industry, the downside to believing that it's an industry and feeling that you yourself, if you participate in hip hop, you can only be hip hop if somebody gives you a check. If somebody validates you, that's a problem, because then you are in search of the bag. You know, you are going to be one of these people who are going to contribute to the bullshit because the powers that be know that it's something that can be commodified. So they pay you to carry out what they need you to convey, to sell their products. Listen, I'm never going to give you this message. And I never have, really. I've never given you this message of power that is above us or the ills in hip hop that some, like it's an evil, nefarious plan to eliminate all of us. That's something that still exists and it's still there. But I think to tell you that is to sort of give you a sexy version, a conspiracy theory version, that there's somebody out there with a huge cigar pressing buttons, determining the fate of the world. And although that may be the case at the very top, far and wide, these are people in their jobs, people trying to keep their jobs, trying to get the most streams as possible, trying to get the most clicks as possible, trying to get the most attention as possible to feed their families and to keep their jobs. So it's not a nefarious thing, these people that work in these companies and that support these bullshit artists, and you want to talk about industry plans and who puts money in whose pocket and what agenda gets carried out. These are all people trying to maintain their jobs. So I'll never tell you that this is some conspiracy and it's all about white supremacy, because although that may be a systematic issue, we have to deal with this on an individual basis. So you have to pay very close attention. Also, what I want to say is, if you believe that hip hop is something that you have to sort of sell yourself into, then you can't complain from this moment on. You cannot complain about culture vultures. A culture vulture can only eat what has been left behind. They can only eat the weak. And if you consider yourself to be weak, then you will be taken advantage of. If you think that hip hop is only an industry, if you think hip hop is only a career path, if you think hip hop is only an opportunity, then you have a for sale sign plastered on your forehead. And culture vultures will continue to come into the culture because you've allowed them to. That's why everybody always has this talk of who let these people in? Who did this? This is an industry and everybody's going to make money off of it and everybody's going to have their hands in it. But a culture vulture only exists when somebody has offered you to do something that extends past your integrity. And if you allow yourself to do it, then they become a culture vulture. But you're the one that gave them the power. See, you're the weak one. They have no power if you don't give them any power. So I don't want to hear any discussions from people discussing culture vultures and these people that clearly they just sit around. They just sit around and all they talk about is about bags and checks. And you are turning the culture into something that needs to be bought into. That's the sign that you put on hip hop when you believe that it is just solely an industry. Of course, it's a music genre, but the music is suffering, even though on the business aspect of it, it's thriving. But artistically, the music is suffering. The music is suffering because of the reason that I think that it's always been suffering. It's always been suffering because of people's incessant need to see themselves in artists, even younger artists, which is even worse. I mean, you see a kid who's coming up on Instagram. He's 19 years old. Excuse me. He's 19 years old and he's got a SoundCloud page, and you don't want to tell him his music is shit. You don't want to tell him his music is shit because you're You want to get into real estate, and you've got an Instagram page as well. You see, the social media sites, the social media apps bind us all together now, where everybody's aspirations are sort of connected. You didn't get that in the past. If someone wanted to be a rapper, then somebody put out a mixtape in 1995. And if you wanted to be a real estate agent in 1995, you weren't on the same platforms as a rapper. So you didn't see yourself as somebody who was on that very same path. But now, since we all market on the very same tools, we wouldn't want to take away from someone, because everybody's a genius in their Instagram header, right? Everybody's a CEO. Everybody's an entrepreneur. Everybody's a producer. Everybody's a slash this and a slash that. So the music suffers because of that. The music suffers because of capitalism, because of our love for things and our need to achieve. Or maybe it's a bit shallow to say capitalism. Maybe it's more of a deeper need for validation, a deeper need for love, or whatever it is, that we don't want to tell people that their music is shit. And once they've made it on certain platforms, conformity takes its shape, and music does what music will do. It will replay and replay until it triggers the mind to be desensitized to it, and then it just becomes a hook that you're listening to constantly, and then all of a sudden you convince yourself that you love this artist. But the music will suffer because of those reasons, and it's been suffering because of that for the past few years. In the past, if somebody was shit, you told them they were shit, and they had to go back and become better. Right? It's no different than, it's like Darwinism. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to become better because people put you through the ringer. And that doesn't happen anymore. So hip hop in 2019 is in a very sad state of affairs in some cases. It's in a very dangerous place, because even the higher ups, even the forefathers are in controversy. You know, the fathers of hip hop are in controversy with scandal, child molestation. You know, you obviously have rappers who they have domestic charges against them. You know, hip hop is very American. You know, I think as Tupac famously once said, I think it was an interview that Tupac did when he was walking out of a court case, a courtroom, and he had an interview outside, and he said something like, America can deny me all they want, but I'm your child. I'm your child, America. And in that same sense, hip hop is America's child, because hip hop is mirroring the very same problem that's in this country. And that's what I've always tried to get across to you guys. Ever since I've been on YouTube, I know it may seem confusing at times, but I've always tried to give you at least an attempt to try to bring in the outside world and show you that there are parallels. There are parallels with what's going on in the world and what's going on in hip hop, because hip hop is just as American as anything else. And it's becoming just as American as anything else, partly because it is now far and wide considered a industry when you hear the word hip hop. So because it's American, it's going through the same ills. It's going through the same troubles. It's going through the corruption of men and what they do when they have power. Certain men, not all, of course. What happens when people in general have power. And that's very unfortunate. And hopefully in the near future, we can get to the bottom of this. We can get to the bottom of African Bambaataa, who has, very, very serious charges. Not charges, where people that have accused him of doing a lot of terrible things to them when they were younger and taking advantage of a lot of people. There's a lot of stories there that you should look into. And many people are being very, very quiet about it. And that's very disturbing. You have allegations against Charlemagne the God, where apparently something had happened with him years ago at a party. I think when he was in his early 20s with a girl who was 15 at the time, so you have that. You have Fabulous, you even have dead rappers who went through their own situations that shouldn't be mentioned anymore. But it all tells you that this is very real, and this isn't to vilify these people. But it's to really tell you that if it's going on in a small scale, and hip hop will always be the small scale. You know, of course, it's the most popular music genre. It's the coolest fucking thing in the world. Hip hop is in music trailers. It's in movies. It's everywhere. It's defeated every other genre. And once again, we have proven that we're just the most creative beings on the face of this earth. But if something is going on at our level, we have to recognize that it's going on in the grand level. And because it's going on in the grand level, we can't avoid the rest of the world. We have to take peeks at the rest of the world and sort of analogize how we should perceive and how we should think about these things against, you know, these charges that people have against them, or these accusations that people have against them, and how we should move forward with regard to hip hop, with regard to our legends, with regard to our media personalities and our rappers, because these are very serious things. So there's a lot of things going on. I'm not anticipating albums. I don't anticipate albums anymore. I'm sorry if I'm in the minority about this. The great albums that come out are just going to come out now at random. You know, you just have a sense that within the next month or so, 2 to 3 people are going to drop exciting pieces of work. And when they drop in, they drop in. That's it. There's no more promotion. You just drop it in there and there's the album. So that's part of the reason why I'm not even conditioned to care about the albums, because I'm expecting to be surprised now. And that's okay, because if these people are going to lobby for your attention, then they're going to find different interesting tactics to just, I'm sorry, I'm coming down with a cold. They're going to find interesting tactics to drop albums in on you to make you excited about the work. And I think that's a good thing, that I'm not anticipating albums. I'm not anticipating dates. If it just happens, it happens. But what do you guys think about 2019 hip hop? What are you excited about? What do you think about these accusations against these legends, against these media personalities? What do you think about hip hop as an industry? I want to know what you think. Please let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time.